All right, guys, so today I'm going to start the install of the new digital readout on the DoAll mill down here. And I kind of previewed this in S&S a few weeks back, but this is a Newall DP500 digital readout, 2-axis digital readout that I got from KBC Tools. And I've always been a fan of Newall. We had bought a Newall C80 digital readout for the Accra mill whenever that mill was at our old shop, and always been a really good unit, never had any problems with it. And also the lathe that worked, the Birmingham lathe, has the same digital readout, the Newall C80. So Newall is a really good product to use. For me, they're tried and true, and they're not cheap imported. They're made in Great Britain, and it's just a really good product. So I don't think you could go wrong. They have a really good warranty. I believe it's either 5 or 6 year warranty on the readers. That's one of the readers right there, the Sphericin and the Microcin. So these are the Sphericin readers, and also the scales as well. So they have a really good warranty. They back up their product, and hey, I'm just excited to get it on there. So I got digital readout. It comes with certifications on whenever they calibrate it, and it comes with all of the books that you need for install. Who reads instructions, right? Well, you might want to read the instructions on these, because if you've never put one in before, then you kind of need to realize what the components that you have and how it mounts up and how critical it is on it being square with the axis of the mill there. So it comes with the books that you need to install it. It comes with a quick start guide that tells you the different functions in the digital readout and how to use it. I don't really use many of the functions. I do use bolt hole circle, and I use the half function. There was another one on there I use sometimes. I can't remember, but anyway, just a really nice to have a digital readout. So I'm excited to get this going. And I'm going to grab the handheld and just kind of give you a quick look at the components that come with the system, and what they look like, how they're made, and that kind of stuff. And then from there, I'm going to start fitting this on there. And I don't plan to shoot the entire thing, trying to mount it up, but I do want to highlight how this is mounted on that mill and show you along the way how it goes. Okay, so let's get started on it. All right, we're going to give you a little shot of the components real quick, kind of go over what we have here. So you get 2 of the readers. These are the Sphericin readers, and these are made kind of as a universal mount. So you have tapped holes on the bottom there on that side, and you can mount them on either side. You got 3 positions that you can mount that on. So whichever way is suited for your needs. Everything is packaged up really nice, coming from overseas, protected from the elements, so everything's wrapped up like it should. We got our books. There's the monitor right there, which is pretty heavy. It's some kind of maybe cast aluminum or something like that. All right. And then we have our components. I've got them separated right now just to try to keep things somewhat organized around here. So these are all the parts that get mounted to the machine. It'll get drilled and tapped, and then these will actually screw into the machine right here. And then all of these arms will be, let's see, so like that right there. It's going to be something like this. Now I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what this is going to look like. So we'll have to drill and tap a hole, for that to go in there. And then all of this is adjustable, so we'll have them down here as well. All right, and then it has to be kind of indicated in, make sure it's nice and square. So it comes with all the parts list. All right, so these are going to be the brackets used to hold it on the side of the knee. That's what this one's for right here. These are the other parts that you got to have. It comes with all the screws you need, even all the little looms to hold the wires up, so you can fasten those to the casting and get the cables routed up out of the way like it should. There's the mounting arm that's going to hold the reader head. All right, comes with the bolts to hold it. They got zip ties in all the packaging there. This is the stuff for the monitor right there, mounting bolts, a grounding cable. There's the power source. And then you got your reader bars themselves right here. All right. So that's it. I'm gonna start figuring this thing out on how to get it mounted up on that machine, and I'll bring you back. So I'm just trying to get things situated. I'm getting the bars, the scales, I mean, and all the clamps kind of organized and put on there and the way they should be. So one of the things that I will point out that we're having to deal with is some of these holes, the bolts are not wanting to screw in there freely. Now I can screw it in from that side. Usually this is the second one, and it gets tight right there at the end. So I don't know if it's from machining and there's a burr rolled in there, or if it's from anodize or anything. But I will say that if you do this, you might as well have you a tap on hand. So this is a 5mm 0.8 pitch, and you're going to have one of these to chase these threads. This is the second one that I've had to do like this, so I'm glad I had an M5 0.8 tap on hand. All right, let's see if that did it. That's it. All right, so far that's the only issue I've had. So like I said, I'm trying to get these kind of organized and situated. It'll be about like that on the scale. And then you have these these are what actually screw into the table of the machine. So you have to drill and tap whatever that is. I haven't even looked to see what thread pitch that is yet. And it'll go on there like so. Like the side of the tables here. It'll mount on like that. So this is all adjustable once you get it on there, you know, on height and stuff like that. Some of these kits, these DRO kits, I remember kind of doing this the last time I had to install one. The bolts can be a little bit confusing, and some of them just don't seem to really match up with how they make the brackets. So I've actually got these bolts right here. These are 5/16, and they fit these slots really good. And they don't stick out as far as a standard cap head, so I'm going to use those. So we'll get the one. I just drilled the one. What I was doing was checking my depth there, make sure I drill it deep enough, and go ahead and get it hand tapped, and then I'll bolt this side up. We'll get it bolted up, level it as good as we can, and then transfer punch the other side there. I'm going to use this ratcheting type Allen wrench right here, and just a dab of the anchor lube. I like using that anchor lube on cast iron and ductile iron. Seems to help me whenever I'm tapping holes. This is a starter tap also, I'll say. And I just try to keep it level. I just look at it and just try to level it by sight. I may have to run a bottom tap in there. Just want to try to get this leveled up, and then we'll punch the other side. All right, that looks good right there. Right there. All right, so I've still got this a little bit loose. What we're going to do is we're going to indicate this thing. So we've already got this mounting bracket bolted to the back of the reader. And I'm going to mount this one up and get it snugged up with these bolts. Alright, so I'm going to get a dial indicator. We'll probably just mount it down here, and then we're going to run it back and forth. And the bottom of this reader head is machined, and we need to get it within 2 thousandths. So let's go ahead and do that. I had to get a little creative with the indicator. I tried to put the Noga right here on the side with that stupid paint. There's just ain't enough magnetic force there. It tries to slide down. So I got the Noga big boy out and it's attached to the main screw down there for the knee. So it should be fine as long as I don't bump it right there. Alright, we've got her set to a 0 on that machine face there. So we're going to traverse it over to the other side and compare it. Alright, there's the machined area, so we're off by 13 thousandths. I'm going to take and bump this side up just a bit. Alright, we got that reader head within 1 thousandths from end to end. Alright, that one's on 0 and that one wasn't quite right on 1 thousandth, so we got that good to go. I'm going to go ahead and just snug these things up. Make sure that it stayed there, and if we're good, that one's on there, it'll be mounted. Yep, that's within 1 thousandth, so I'm leaving that one alone. We've got the y-axis, we've got the table pulled all the way to us as far as we can go. So we're just picking a good looking spot right there to get our hole drilled and tapped for the little mounting shafts right here. These are the studs that'll screw into the casting, just like so, and get clamped to it. So I think I got a pretty decent spot picked out right there. It'll make the scale pretty much equal on each end. Just kind of eyeballing it right there. And come back just a little bit, and that looks like that'll be pretty even on both sides. And we can adjust this scale a little bit each side that we want to. So I got me a transfer punch. This is a 5/8 transfer punch. It fits in here pretty good. Let's see. So all this is adjustable. I've got it snugged up so all that stuff can move. What did I do with my little level? Here we go. I was going to try to do this. Is to try to get it kind of level before I hit it. Alright, so that's pretty good right there. We're going to go with that. Alright, we'll go ahead and drill and tap now. These are going to be metric. I think they're 8mm. So our tap size is 8 by 1.25. I'm going to use this 6.5mm drill bit. I guess the next closest thing would be 17/64, but I just wanted to use my new 6.5mm drill. And I think it'll be fine. Oh man. I didn't expect that. I thought it was thicker than that. Drill's still fine. I didn't break it. Okay. Man. Okay. Well, that took me for a ride for a sec. These are the two taps that I have. I have a gun tap, and then I have a bottom tap. That's the only two I can find that's in that size, so we will just use the gun tap. All right, let's see if it fits. Good fit. I need to loosen everything up. There we go. All right. Let's go ahead and get the other end done, and then we'll worry about getting everything tightened up. All right, so we're on the back end now. I've run the table all the way back as far as it'll go. So everything's clearing really good. And I'm just going to use this little level again and just try to get it kind of level. All right, that's pretty good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to not really move it, but go ahead and just stick this transfer punch in there. The other thing that I'll point out is I tried to put this block sort of like in the middle of that travel. That way you got a little bit of movement once you get all this stuff bolted in there, and it'll kind of center itself up, and then you tighten the bolts up. All right, that's a spot there. Now I'll go back in there with my center punch and hit it again. All right, let's see how I did on this one here. I think we got a fine fit right there. So in the parts that come with it, there's actually heavy duty washers or like spacers that go on these. You see they don't thread all the way up. So there's actually a spacer that goes on there. And then I think how I'm going to do the guard is the aluminum shield it'll actually be bolted flat to this, so it'll come up and over to cover the reader. So that's something else I'll have to do, is transfer a hole pattern onto that and drill the holes so that these studs will go through the guard and it'll just bolt it up to the the casting there. So I'm going to try one of these. These are Hyman transfer screws. They're kind of like transfer punches for tapped holes. And I know that's a metric hole. This is 5/16, which is really close. That's the closest match you can get to 8 mil versus 5/16. I'm going to see if this will screw in there. That's what it looks like, a set screw with a point on the end of it. Use the tool to screw it in there. Alright, so I can get in there a little bit. At least it'll go in there and kind of center up. So I'm going to put one here and over there, and then I'm going to slide that aluminum guard up in here. Hopefully it'll go in there and get it in position, and I'll tap it to transfer the two holes. That way I can just drill the holes right there in line with these, okay? Probably a little too aggressive, but we got his 2 punch marks on there now. Got her clamped down to some plastic pieces there with some cant twist. I'm going to use a 8mm drill to drill these holes. All right, let's see if we can put this one together for the final time. I'm about to find out if that'll bolt up. All right, we're going to go in with our scale. They got a really cool laser etch on that end with the Newall serial number. So I'm going to put it on this end where it could actually be seen. Right about so. So what's next? I'm trying to remember. Maybe we'll go on with that. And then, oh, this was something that I forgot to mention right here. There's 2 different lengths of these. The other ones I was showing earlier were shorter, and I didn't realize that at first, but they're like that much. These are about that much longer. So I'm going to use just these over here on this end. And then there's the washers that I was talking about, the heavy, thick washers. Let's see if I can get this fit in there. And then through the aluminum. All right, looks like we're going to have just enough room to use our 13mm wrench to tighten it up. Cool. I'm going to leave it loose and get the other side bolted in. Everything's clear. Looks like my little transfer screw trick worked. So we're letting that float for now. What I'm going to do is come back down here, since we're closer down there. I'm going to run the reader all the way to that end, and then I'm going to tighten up all of these screws. That way it's kind of like self-centering on the scale there. And then we'll run it back this way. That way it holds it where it needs to be, and then we'll tighten the three bolts up. I think this is one thing I'm going to have to do. That needs some tape there, but I need to loosen this little hose clamp off of the wiper. I want to pick this up and probably put it up here on the casting, get it up off there. It's right in the way. Okay. So I need to go ahead and tighten up the stud. Okay. That end's done. Back to the other end. our stud tight. All right, hopefully that's it right there. We've got one mounter, one reader mounted on there. Looking good. All right, man, finally success. Partial success anyway. Now we still got little wire looms, you know, little holders that we've got to mount over here on the housing. Once I get both of them mounted up, that way I can zip tie them all up together and try to keep it looking clean.